Alright everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be attempting to do the S1 question, Senior 1 question, for the CCC in the year of 2011. I might make this into a channel, or I might make this into a series in my channel where I just share my S1 answers, especially for those who have never done competitive programming before and kind of want to know the thought process that goes into answering some of these questions, because competitive programming is something that was relatively new to me as well, and I found it really hard to get into. But once you find some good tutorials online, and once you get the flow of things and you start doing your own practice, it isn't too bad. So let's do it right now. So here's the question. You can read it on screen, but what I'm going to be looking at first is the input specification. And it says that the input will contain the number n and be followed by that n lines of text afterwards. Now this is something I've noticed occurs a lot in the CCC, where you have to first input a number and then the number of lines that follow is that number, and you can basically standardize that code for really anything you do. So I'm just going to call it n, and then I'm just going to put it as input. And then that's what refers to as the user's input. And I'm using Python 3, by the way. And then you can int that to make it an integer. And then you want to do some sort of loop that is actually able to iterate through n lines. So you can just do for I in range of n, something happens. Now in this situation, we want to have an X amount of lines, and we want to count how many times the lowercase t, the capital T, the lowercase s, and the capital S occurs, and then compare them. If there's more S characters than T, it's French, and if there's more T than S, it's English. So to do this, really, we need, first of all, to get the input from the user n amount of times. And this is basically what's standardized. And to actually count how many times an S appears, we can do a code within this loop. And we can basically count how many times an S occurs for every single line, and then add up all of the S's and add up all of the T's. Now, when we're working between lines and we're working between each iteration of a loop, it's highly recommended that you use some sort of list to keep track of all of the numbers you're counting. So we're going to have to create maybe a list for the total amount of S's, and we're going to have to create a list for the total amount of T's. And then we're going to need to find a way to actually count the number of S's in a line. So to do this, we can just create a variable called S, and then we can use the line variable and count how many times an S occurs. And there's actually a function in Python that allows you to do that. And then you can add it, because this only counts the capital S's, you can add it with the amount of lowercase s's as well. And then same thing can happen, but for the T, and then you can just copy and paste the same code to save time, because usually these contests are timed and the CCC is timed. And now you have the total number of S's in that line and the total number of T's. And depending on how many lines we have, we can have like 10 lines, we can have 3 lines. We're going to have to basically append it to a list so we can compare each single line and total them up. So that's where the S count comes in play, and we can append whatever the S is, and then same with the T count, we can append whatever the T is. So that's the loop, and then essentially what we have by the end of this is the S count list having the total amount of S's and the T count having the total amount of T's. Now, this part is pretty simple. To actually total what's inside of these lists, we just have to create a new variable, and we can sum whatever was inside of the S count. And same with tsum, sum T count. So each of these lists have the total amount of, it has all of the numbers from each single line. So if S appeared 5 times in line 1, it has one entry one entry of 5, and if it appeared like 2 times in the second one, it has 2, has 3, and so it's like it's just a list of numbers for every single line, and to actually add them together we can just use the sum function and store it into a new variable. And then after that it is really simple. We just do an if-else statement. So if there's more s's than t's, so if the total amount of s's is larger or even equals to, in this case, we can simply print out, okay, it's probably going to be French. So we do that. And then we can just do an else. If it's the other way around, then it's English. And then an important part of competitive programming is you always want to test what you're creating. So in this case, I'm going to do run module. And we can use the sample inputs that they've given. So they use 3 for the beginning. So we can do 3. And then they use this. You can just copy and paste it. And it works, same output. Great. You can run it again. Copy this. Add 3, copy, French. So now that we confirmed that it works, we can submit it to the actual contest. And I've already done one submission before, so all we would have to do, once again, choose file. And then in this case, we'd find where our file is on our computer. And I had one saved as YouTube CCC. And we can just select it. Or hang on. We can just probably find it ourselves. And then we submit. And it takes a while to grade, but you can see our code over here. And after a while, you know, you might not happen directly right when you refresh. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, but after a while it'll come over here, and this is one that I completed before, and it should give you the subtasks and like how many points you've got in total. And here's the total amount of points. So hopefully this helped and you're able to see my reasoning, and I'll see you guys in the next video.